Hmm. I'm not hearing anything. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Wide for Success podcast with me, Steve Costello, and my colleague over there in the UK, Patience Morevi. Good to see Patience. How are you doing?
Hi, Steve.
So today we're going to talk about something that you could argue it shapes the way we view success. It shapes the way we view power, and it shapes the way we view self-worth. Self-worth. I can't even say the word. It's a big conversation. I've not given away what it is just yet, but we will in a minute. In a minute. The thing is, though, this conversation is one that we absolutely need to have, especially parents of adolescents, parents of young people. It's essential. We've all seen things like the loud voices online, the influencers, the people that dominate the digital world, and they influence young people into doing things that perhaps some of us would say, whoa, stop, wait a minute, we can't go down that road. So we have people like Andrew Tate, for example, who has been through adolescence. It's not a video, it's a series of videos pushing toxic ideas about masculinity, about control, and about misogyny. That's
Mm.
what's being pushed. And it needs to be called out. But there's also, and that's mostly about young men, but there's another side to the story that's kind of left out of that stuff. And it's what's happening to young women. So we need to be inclusive here. We need to talk about young men and young women. We don't need to separate. There's been a big rise in extreme behaviors being showcased on social media. For example, recent examples include things like young women boasting about sexual encounters or sexual extremes they've been involved with. And they're doing it for attention, or are they doing it for fame? So, what
Mm.
does this mean to us as parents and to young women watching or listening to this podcast? How does it shape their view of themselves, those young women that I just mentioned? How does it shape their relationships and their idea of empowerment? For me, as a professional, what's going on there is not about empowerment. It's about disempowerment because it is taken away all sorts of things. And think about just for a minute, let's just think about self-esteem. Does it getting involved in this sort of activity, does it raise self-esteem or does it knock it on the head and turn it into something else that we don't really want? So what do you think, Patience? It's a difficult subject. There's a lot involved in it. So we're going to have to,
Yeah. It's a really difficult subject. And when you were talking about obviously this idea of what fame is or what success is in mainly young people lives right now, it's really difficult to see, especially as a parent, that more and more young people are using their bodies, um, you know, to grab attention or are using false pretenses. People who influencers, who is really an influencer now? This this world is just the it's just a big spectrum. If we need to use the word influencers, because you have the young people right now, they see influencers as somebody who is doing something absolutely sometimes crazy on social media or even on TV. I'm thinking of in the early 2000s, when I came actually in the UK, started a TV program that was called Big Brother. And I remember specifically this young girl, she was named Jade Goody. The reason why I remember her is because, first of all, I live in Bermondsey, and she was from Bermondsey. That's one. And then, second, unfortunately, she passed away. So she had a tragic um, life after. But I remember when she came, she was really young. And what got her to be so famous, even though she never won the actual program, the Big Brother game, is that she kissed somebody in the swimming pool. That was early 2000. I think, as I said to you, Steve, already, there's always been people using their bodies, to grab attention.
Yeah.
Obviously, we now know that because of the media or because of this internet, everything is really blown up out of proportion. But in all of this, if you look at Jade Goody's story or how she got to be so famous, and when you look at young girls now who are using their body, is there a real difference between the two?
I think the difference, and you said it a moment ago, and I think I said it a little bit earlier, is that digital platforms seem to be able to polarize extremes, to polarize the kiss in the swimming pool into something far bigger than it was, for example, to make it acceptable and to make it wonderful and to make it something that we want to copy. It's almost like a digital role model that people want in on. And I think that is the scary thing for me, at least.
Yeah,
Um,
that is the scary thing.
yeah. So we've got to ask, what kind of freedom do we want young people to strive for? And that sounds like a really simple question, but when you start to consider the stuff we started talking about today, the digital platforms and so on, and we don't, at least from my point of view, we don't want freedom that's defined by extremes, because that's not freedom, not really. You become a prisoner to something
Yeah.
if you're part of a system that's defined by extremes. So that's quite scary. It's certainly scary for me as a parent. My youngest is 19 today, and many of the young women that are sucked into these digital worlds are of a similar age. Some are younger, but there are many of a similar age. So that, for me as a parent, is kind of a warning bell that we need to do something. So what can we begin to do about it? That's the question.
I think before, sorry,
Keep
if I,
going, keep going, don't stop.
I think another big difference as well is the monetization of of these behaviors, basically. You know,
Yeah,
this is a big role, and this again creates false sense of fame and false sense of success. So so also before we even get to identifying what is good for a young person, when we think at even as a society, what is it that we are creating? What are we creating when we are in a place where those kind of things are they're looked at as worthy, basically, this kind of behaviors.
yeah,
No?
yeah. I agree. I think you're right. In a way, if you think about success, we're called this angle of this side of our business is called wired for success. And
It's
one of the things that success is not is is about who shouts the loudest. That's not success. Or who can push the farthest boundary. That's not success. But yet many people are beginning to believe that those things do lead to success. They don't. They lead somewhere else. So we need to think about that for a little bit.
So we're
Success
going.
is about knowing who you are. It's about standing in your own power. And it's about, I think it's important to say, finding success on your terms, not trying to measure up to the image that's created out there. So there's a whole, again, that's another big discussion that we need to have. But I'm really curious to know what people think who are listening and watching. What do they think about this whole debate? So if you've got an opinion, if you've got some ideas, if you're scared of what's going on, whatever you feel, leave a comment, send us a message, get in touch. We can keep this conversation going. I'm finding it quite difficult to keep my thoughts short and succinct because there is so much to say on this. So, Patience, do you want to finish? Have you got some more to say on this?
Yes.
I know you have, but
So as you know, if you've been listening to us for a while, we always talk before we start to do the video. And one thing is that when we speak, so when Steve speaks or I speak, boom, there's something else that comes up. And you want to talk about many things, which we can't do because of the time of this podcast. But really and truly, so if we come back to the topic that we wanted to discuss, which is self-identity or looking at an healthy self-esteem. What is it that we can bring? I think it all really starts with values. I mean that's what I will say. It starts with values. And the reason why I'm saying that it starts with values is because even when we get pulled, because that's life. In life, we get pulled here, pulled there, pulled by our friends, pulled by teachers, pulled by society. That's what we are doing. But the base, the groundwork is done by understanding our values. What is important for me and how my values are defining my identity, who I am, what I stand for, what is important for me. I think the discussion around what success is, the discussion around what people should strive for or what they should work for, about our purpose here in this world, is a discussion that needs to be had by parents with their young people. So you can't you it's nice to role model because that's what we need to do. But it's also nice to sit down and say, okay, have you seen what's going on right now in the world? What do you think about this? And just listening to what your young people are saying. From there, you can definitely filter out how they're thinking around this subject. And then it's giving the power back and saying to them, well, what do you think is the right or wrong thing here? I don't think there's especially right or wrong, but what do you think about this?
yeah, I think that's exactly the point. We could say to our young people, okay, Instagram, the thing that came into my head, Instagram, it's dangerous, don't go there.
Mm.
That's not going to end well.
Mm.
So that's not what we need to be doing. We need to be, as Patience just said, we need to be having the discussion. I think that's the key. And one of the things, just to finish off, wants to get their messages across. And suddenly, what young people are finding is that the narrative they're hearing that they think is theirs actually isn't.
Yeah.
It's the narrative of somebody else or something else, another organization or whatever it is. We need to realize that the narrative of our life is written by us. It's not written by somebody else. Yes, other people influence, but we're the writers of our own narrative. And I
Mm.
think that's important. And we can write those things, and that's figure of speech, of course, by having conversation and discussion with people who matter. That's what Patience and I are here for. We can help with those things. So if you're stuck, don't hesitate, give us a shout. And we will, as we always say, we will respond.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop for now.
One thing I just wanted to say. So, not so over the weekend, was with a friend, and this friend was feeling really sad because of something that happened with them, which is just normal life. But the question that popped in my head at that time was, what exactly does this mean for you? So we need to look behind the surface. So if your child is in a space where they are oversharing their bodies, or they are in this kind of behaviors of, I don't know, influencers, or, whatever is happening at the moment in this toxic masculinity, oh my God, in this toxic masculinity, I can't talk anymore. If they are in this period, we have to you have to look at what's behind it. And this is where Steve and I we come, because then we can help you and your child reach what's behind, and also guide you into the path to take to come out of it. Ultimately, it will start with you. You have to make the change, or you have to make the choice that this is happening. I don't want to keep going that way. This is where I want to go. We are here for that. So you need to always think, when something is happening on the surface, below the surface, there's so many things happening. And those are the things that we are here to support you about with. Sorry. Oh my God.
Okay, let us know what you think, and we will be back again very, very soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.